Well, hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. I'm Phil Goodlad with all the news, the views and the analysis you need on Friday the 10th of October. It's a national morning after the night before. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't an easy watch. But who cares? Scotland edging closer to World Cup qualification with a nervy but ultimately entertaining win over a dominant Greek team.
Lyndon Dykes trying to bring that under control, and the goalkeeper, he's giving it straight to Dykes. It must be. Yes! It's a goal! Lyndon Dykes seals the victory for Scotland. An absolute horror show from the goalkeeper Salakis, who spilled it at Dykes' foot, and he just swept it into the top corner. And Lyndon Dykes makes it Scotland 3, Greece 1.
Whisper it, but we could be guaranteed a playoff spot come Sunday. With Belarus to come at the weekend, what do we need from that game and what should we expect to face? This morning we will leave no stone unturned.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
I say national morning. I don't mean obviously that we're grieving. I meant that this, as a nation, we are coming together the morning after the night before, still rubbing our eyes in disbelief at what happened. You've never heard noise like 40-odd thousand fans trotting out of Hampden last night, as confused, I think, as baby raccoons with what happened. Steve McGowan, the football writer of so many big nights at Hampden, Stephen, but even you must be scratching your head to remember a night that Scotland came out on top after really, on paper at least, looking as if it was just never going to happen.
I think we were sitting there after 58 minutes and you've had Greece taking the lead, quite deservedly so. You've had the fans booing after Bengan and Doak was taken off. And it just had that feeling of real foreboding about it. It just felt as if it was going to end in a fairly familiar tale of woe for Scotland. And I think that's why you take it. I think that's why you take the smash and grab, if you like, because we've been on the other end of so many hugely disappointing nights. And it turned out fantastically well because, as you referred to earlier, Phil, I mean, there's a real opportunity now to claim a playoff. And in actual fact, I think every Scot should be crossing their arms, legs, fingers, every limb they've got for a draw between Denmark and Greece. Because if that happens and if Scotland beat Belarus, then there's a real opportunity to beat Denmark and have a real chance of going straight to the World Cup. I mean, that is beyond anybody's imagining, I think. So, a really good night in the office.
And we'll come to that because we're almost going to play the game. How greedy do we want to be? Do we want a guaranteed playoff spot come Sunday, or do we actually want to be top of the table and with a real chance of winning the group? Joelle Murray is with us. 48 times she pulled on the national shirt for Scotland. Joelle, as a player, would you have been leaving the field last night, sitting in the dressing room, almost in stunned disbelief?
Yeah, I think there would have been a bit of that, Phil, but I think the overriding emotion would have been delight. I think as a footballer, you always kind of draw upon and think about the last emotion, and certainly the last emotion, nearly the last action of the game was Lyndon Dykes' goal. So I think there would have been a little bit disbelief amongst the dressing room, but wild celebrations, because like Stephen said, we've been on the end of results and performances where we should have got something from a really good performance but didn't. So I think it's about time we got a bit of luck in a result like last night on the back of a poor first half performance in particular.
Joelle, when you're watching a game, having played nearly 50 times for Scotland, do you see what's not working? And did you see last night, A, what wasn't working in that first hour, but B, signs that the players were getting slightly frustrated? I mean, when Gannon Doak was taken off, he was shaking his head.
Yeah, you could see he was frustrated. You could see everyone in the stadium was frustrated, and probably everyone watching at home frustrated, because you could see that the press wasn't right. We were hesitant to press. When we did press, we were either doing it in isolation, or we were getting caught in a half press, which meant Greece, a very good team, were able to pop it round us, find the spaces that we just departed. And yeah, I think it was evident to see that the press was wrong. It was evident to see that we were extremely wasteful. Once we regained possession, we didn't really have an out. We were always just driving forward with no real support. And you could see the players were frustrated. And what that does is you then do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. You go and chase a bad pass. You go and chase a ball that you thought you maybe should have got. And what that does, it causes hesitation in behind, and it just causes that isolated press and a lot of disjointed structure.
I thought it was funny, Phil. I actually thought it was funny, the Gannon Doak one. It was the most Steve Clarke thing ever, wasn't it? Because you're talking about a manager who just doesn't do populism. He just, he does his own thing. He's utterly single-minded. And when Gannon Doak goes off, as you said, the stadium were booing effectively. And people were thinking, right, he's taken off the young wonder kid and the best attacking outlet that the team appeared to have at that time. I'm not saying he played brilliantly, because he didn't, but it just appeared to be removing an attacking player to be a bit more Steve Clarke and pragmatic. In actual fact, he got it spot on. Because as Joelle said, he changed the shape there. He pushed Lewis Ferguson a bit further up, McTominay, and then he brought Gilmour in and just had far more control of the midfield, and he got it absolutely spot on. And that's why he gets paid big money and we don't.
Yeah.
And it was an excellent bit of management.
And I mean, his tactical change, pushing Lewis Ferguson slightly more forward, ended up with Lewis Ferguson being man of the match. And Billy Gilmour, I wondered if the Greeks wouldn't put in a complaint to try and check his shoes, because they looked like they were clattered with super glue. The ball just didn't leave Billy Gilmour's foot when he had him. And there was almost a sense, certainly in the South Stand where I was last night, a sense that when Billy Gilmour was on the ball, it was going to be okay. We weren't going to just kick the ball forward and lose it like it was happening time and time again.
Yeah, I think people find it difficult to understand sometimes why Billy Gilmour doesn't start every game. It's a Billy Gannon Doak. They're fan favourites, but you can understand why they're favourites, because technically he's just superb. And I would imagine that Gilmour will be a starter against Belarus, particularly as we know now that Christie and Ferguson are suspended. So I think that's much as he doesn't do things that please fans very often, I think that would be an easy way for Steve Clarke to do it. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, me and my boy last night, Joelle, we were laughing at Ivan Jovanovic, the Greek manager, because he was like a heron in his technical area. I've never seen anybody, let alone a gentleman of his age, spend a game on his hookers, poised, ready to spring in the air whenever. I don't know if you got a chance to see it last night. And then when Greece took the lead, he sort of proudly marauded the box, almost as if, well, I knew that we were going to win this and everything was good. And then when Scotland scored 1, 2 and 3, the heron was ready to take flight and clear off. I mean, he couldn't believe it as much as the rest of us. A word on Greece and whether what we saw last night was actually Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, that it was rope-a-dope, and that what Steve Clarke did was he pounced exactly when he thought Greece were at their most vulnerable. Or am I, as usual, Joelle, just looking far too much into what we think happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you've overanalyzed that there, Phil. I think...
Thank you, Joelle.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I think last night, in my opinion, it was a clear case of too many players performing poorly. I thought it was a case, like Stephen said, too many players playing slightly out of position. You've got players like Ryan Christie playing a little bit narrower, in my opinion, his strengths out wide. You've got Lewis Ferguson playing a little bit deeper. So yeah, I think last night was a classic case of exactly that. Greece played very, very well, don't get me wrong. I don't think we can discredit them. I think Solis in particular, and their left-hand side caused a lot of problems, caused a lot of issues. They were creating overloads, they were drawing Hickey out and playing it in behind, and a lot of their good play came down there. But I think once we changed the structure, once we played on the front foot, I think we probably gave Greece a little bit too much respect. I think the game turned then. We played on the front foot, we played with belief. and then we saw a lot more of the ball. And we've got good players. We've got really good players, and players that deserve to play a lot on the ball. We suffered a lot out of possession, and yeah, I think for me it was a classic case of exactly that, Phil. Too many players underperforming in a structure that didn't quite suit us up against a decent team. But then we changed it, and then we got on the front foot and took our chances.
I think that was a good. I think it's a good point, Joe. I mean, if you look at our starting 11 last night, we had 6 English Premier League players and 3 Serie A players in the starting 11, and you're thinking, how can a team with that pedigree be so comprehensively outplayed for an hour? It was baffling, and it would really have rebounded badly in Steve Clarke if it had gone wrong, but he pulled out the fire. And I mean, thanks to our good friend, Scotland's coefficient, Gavin, Phil. I mean, he's one World Cup qualifying loss in the last 19. I don't think Scotland have lost a World Cup qualifier at home in 12 years now. So actually, maybe we're okay. We haven't made it to World Cup finals. Maybe we're a bit too hard on ourselves. You know, I mean, whatever you think about Steve Clarke, and for all that he's never going to convince absolutely everybody, he's made Scotland a really hard team to beat, and that was evident last night.
And we are 11, 12 minutes deep into this podcast, and we've not spoken about what arguably could be the most pivotal moment of all last night, which came in injury time when Angus Gunn clawed that fantastic save from nowhere, the ball going into the top corner, and he clawed it away for a corner. And what I think a moment like that does, especially for a goalkeeper that there's been so much discussion about his place in the team because he's not playing currently for Nottingham Forest, is that Stephen McGowan, that was a big moment that we required a big performance, and we got it.
We've been talking for so long about Scotland having a goalkeeping crisis, haven't we? I mean, you look at the lack of really viable first team ready options there. So I think people are understandably nervous about that position. And then you see Angus Gunn doing that. And again, you know, Clark's asked about it afterwards. He says, well, it's his job. You know, it's kind of Roy Keane style response, which I thought was a bit harsh because that was absolutely a pivotal moment, wasn't it? Because if that curls in that top corner, there's just an absolute flatness comes over the place. And it just gives Scotland that platform to go and kill the game. Although I do still maintain, I feared for one horrible second that Lyndon Dykes had missed that. And I can't be the only one who saw that ball soaring towards the top corner for, oh my God, he's put it over.
Who was it years ago? Was it Ronnie Rosenthal for Liverpool when he was like 3 yards out and he hit the bar? We're talking 30 odd years ago now. But yes, I looked at the ball and I was almost in disbelief when I saw the net bulge because I was like, he's put this over the bar. I mean, the whole bit in injury. And actually, the great thing for Lyndon Dykes is that he probably made sure that there were no heart attacks for that 6 minutes. I mean, 6 minutes of added on time. Thankfully, Dykes scoring and it didn't matter. Listen, we'll get into what comes next at the weekend. Just for a moment, though, we mentioned Ryan Christie there. He's going to be guest tomorrow on the Saturday show with Amy Irons and with Stephen Mill. Ryan Christie, also Rachel Corsey. She was doing the TV last night for us. Your former captain, Joelle, with the national side. Both on Radio Scotland tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, the Saturday show with Amy and Stephen. Right, Joelle, let's look ahead to Sunday. Let's project, and you tell me what happens when Belarus comes to town, because for all that I am... I'm slightly gaga this morning at what we saw last night. The Scottishness in me is saying, aha, this is the game that we are bound to win. The poorest team in the group. They got scudded last night by Denmark. I wonder what's going to happen, with a foreboding in my heart.
Yeah, I think everyone will probably be thinking the same, to be fair, Phil. I think it's a game that we've probably earmarked and pinpointed as a game that we should be winning. And I think we will. I think, like Stephen said, we've got first-class players in that Scotland team. We've got players that, like Gilmore, who is brave enough to want the ball in congested areas, play out of those areas and play forward to very, very fast, creative players in the attacking line. So, yeah, I think there will be a slight worry that Sunday doesn't happen or finish the way we want it to finish, but I think we'll get the job done. I think on the back of last night's heavy defeat to Denmark, they'll be licking their wounds a little bit, and I don't know how they played, what their style of play was last night, but I'd imagine they'll maybe try and come and park the bus, be compact, be hard to beat, and then it's just about how we pick them off, how we bring them out of that defensive structure and go and play again on the front foot with those top class players.
And what we will have, Stephen, is changes. Aaron Hickey's injury and Lewis Ferguson and Ryan Christie both suspended.
Yeah, I thought Tony Wilson did okay when he came on last night, I have to say. No qualms about that one. As I say, you would imagine Gilmer will come in from the start. There's opportunities for your Kenny McLeans, for your Lennon Millers and so on. I think Joel's right. I think it will be it'll be okay. It'll be okay, but I don't think it'll be absolutely convincing. But I mean, they are 0 points. They've got a goal difference of -12. I think their own association president called the team useless. I think I was hearing last night, which is a great vote of confidence in his own players. So,
that's the sort of straight talking we like, is it not?
Listen, I hope he's right. So absolutely, I think this is a game Scotland will win, if not comfortably, certainly by a couple of goals. And it will be all eyes on what's happening elsewhere, because that really is going to be absolutely huge. And I understand the kind of thinking that it's good if Denmark win because it gives us a guaranteed playoff. But you know what? At this stage, it's still dare to dream a wee bit higher than that.
You're a gambler, aren't you? You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Yeah,
Steve.
but I never. I might be a gambler, but I never win. So,
We're looking for a guaranteed playoff, surely. Before, Joelle, I bring you in, Stephen, I just want to just quickly wrap up the changes that we made from a personnel point of view. I mentioned them there just now. But does Steve Clarke need to change tactically after the fact that last night for an hour it simply did not work? Or is that because we were facing Greece and Belarus is nowhere near the opposition that Greece are?
I always worry about the Scotland team when they actually do have to go and win a game. I mean, I just said confidently I would beat Belarus, but if you think back to the Northern Ireland friendly before the Euros, you think back to Hungary, I think teams have noticed that if you actually force the Scotland team to go and win, and if you just put 11 men behind the ball, you can make life really difficult for them. So you've always got that natural trepidation. I think it would help if Scott McTominay came right back to the fore again as well, I have to say. I mean, McTominay has been such a huge player for the team in the last few years. And he is a terrific player, and he's obviously cutting up at Napoli most of last season in this. But, I think there were just players who were a bit off the boil last night who took a bit of time to come to it. So you look for them to come back to the fore. And there won't be as much need to worry about pressing. I mean, Joel's absolutely right. Didn't get the press quite right last night. I don't think that's going to be a big issue on Sunday, because they'll have control of the game. It will be a case of, can you break them down? Can you take this bus and smash it to smithereens? And that's going to be the challenge more than anything else.
Joelle, are you a gambler? Would you like to see Scotland secure a World Cup playoff spot on Sunday by beating Belarus and Denmark beating Greece? Or are you of the Stephen ilk that you want to see Denmark and Greece draw and us pull away from the Danes at the top with 2 games to go?
Yeah, I think for me, I would obviously ideally like that security, but I think either outcome, a positive outcome, it needs to be, and then it just gives us that platform. But before then, control the controllables, think about what we're doing, and then look at what's happening elsewhere thereafter. Make sure we get what we want done.
What will the players want, or does it just not come into it?
I think they'll probably want that instant security, the instant clarity that they will be there. But I think, like I just said, they'll be looking just to give themselves the best possible platform to go perform and be there, and whichever route that takes them.
Yeah. Listen, a reminder that it's a busy old weekend again here at BBC Scotland. The TV will have full live coverage of Scotland against Belarus from Hampden on Sunday. The best pictures, though, of course, with us on BBC Radio Scotland. Kenny McIntyre and the Sports Sound team, they played a blinder last night at Hampden. They'll do it all again on Sunday. Belarus coming to town for the fourth of 6 World Cup men's qualifiers. Scotland could potentially secure a playoff spot at least. Finally, I just want to check in on the women's team. I mean, the problem with the World Cup qualifying week is that there's so many stories that we would focus on that we just simply don't have time for. I mean, even Steven Gerrard, remember him? Remember the links with him and Rangers? We've not even had a chance to focus on that in this podcast, although maybe one or two of you might be thinking, well, that's a relief, Phil, because that's all you seem to do. And not just BBC Scotland as well, but everywhere. But that's a big story. So too the team announcement, Joelle, from Hampden with Melissa Andretti and the upcoming friendlies against Morocco and Switzerland this month. Only one new cap with Georgia Brown. Is that a surprise that Andretti's not tried to bring more players into the fold?
Yeah, I think so. I think it certainly is, because it's the last couple of opportunities to see new players in that environment before obviously the competitive action starts. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised not to see a few more players. You've got players that miss out, like Chelsea Cornet, who's performing really, really well down south. There's obviously players that have been recalled to the squad. So players that Melissa hasn't seen in that environment. So a Mia Macaulay, a Kirsty Hansen, a Kirsty Smith. So those are players that she will see for the first time in that environment. But yeah, I think for me, these games are opportunities to try things, to test things, formations, styles of play and personnel. And she's not really went down that route other than Georgia Brown, who has of course been promoted from the under-23s, a player, a Jenna Clarke-esque player, a player that plays a position that we don't have a lot of depth in at centre back. So I can see why she's brought her in. But yeah, I was surprised that there wasn't a lot more changes.
And one other surprise, maybe, I don't know, it might be a bit old-fashioned. I saw Rachel Corsie last night at Hampden doing the TV coverage for us, and I looked and I was like, there's the Scotland captain. Oh no, she's not the Scotland captain. Who is that? Oh no, we've not appointed a Scotland captain yet. Is that just, am I just getting old and bitter and I think the national side needs a captain that we can all view? Or is Melissa right to not select one just yet?
Yeah, I think she's obviously waiting to see qualities, attributes. I think the natural ones are Erin Cuthbert, Caroline Weir, who of course have taken the armband when Corsie was in the squad but wasn't available. So yeah, it's strange that announcement hadn't happened, whether she wants to speak to those players in person, face to face, opposed to over the telephone, who knows. But yeah, there are a couple of standout candidates. For me, she maybe just can't quite choose between the two that I've just mentioned, Erin Cuthbert, Caroline Weir, Lee Alexander, of course, another one who stands out. So yeah, a lot of top candidates for that vacant position, but very strange that it hasn't been appointed and filled when the squad was announced.
You'd like to think Caroline Weir would get an nod for that game in Dunfermline, wouldn't you? You know, that would make a bit of sense for her to lead the team out there at East End Park.
Yeah, a big Pars fan, like you said, Stephen. So yeah, I think she would see that as a really great honour to do that.
What you might do is you get the armband for the night, and then we spend the next few weeks wondering who is still the Scotland captain. Yeah, maybe Stephen, we're just old-fashioned when it comes, but I don't know. I like to know who the captain is, but I remember years ago, and I know it's a different sport, but I remember years ago speaking to the Scotland head coach Andy Robinson, who said that in modern sport, you don't need the out-and-out leader because you need so many leaders in so many areas. But I always just think the captain, that the appointed one, is the one that visually and audibly is the leader of the team, and I don't know, it just sort of fits right. But as I say,
I think the one thing we can agree on is that you are indeed old-fashioned, Phil. No question about it.
What was it, Joelle? You slagged me off earlier for what? Going into
Overran it. Yeah, you went
overanalyzing, and now I'm being
into
referred
deep,
to as
Phil.
old.
Overanalysed and old.
At least I
What a
can
morning.
say that I just, for Sunday, let's just secure a playoff. I'm not like gambler McGowan here who wants to push all the chips in.
You're hopelessly unambitious, man. Hopelessly.
Listen, we'll leave it there because I think that's probably the right note to leave it on. Big match on Sunday. Of course, you'll watch it with us here on BBC Scotland. You'll hear it too with us on BBC Radio Scotland. Steve McGowan, Joelle Murray, thank you very much indeed for joining us. What a pleasure it is, the morning after the night before, to rake over the coals of a Scotland victory, however unlikely it felt through much of last night. But a victory it is. And we march on, hopefully, towards North America next summer. Enjoy our beautiful game. Remember the football. Everything is covered for you. We start tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, with Sports Sound, looking back at Thursday night, looking ahead to Sunday's game, and then Sunday's game live across BBC TV and radio. For now, though, take it easy and enjoy whatever comes on Sunday. Win, lose, or indeed draw. Although we all know it'll be a win. Bye for now.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.